I don't think I'd mentioned this before, but when I was a toddler, my first gaming experience was on personal computers. It's true, some of my earliest gaming memories is with the computer. Most of them were educational, sure, but there were some exceptions like some sports titles. God, I love backyard baseball. Gaming and computing go hand in hand, but you may not expect to find them in certain places, like on the Sega Dreamcast. With a keyboard controller, and their popular zombie rail shooter? What in the actual hell? The Typing of the Dead on the Sega Dreamcast. Question: how do you prefer to kill zombies? By shooting or by typing? In the mid-90s, one of the more popular arcade genres that was booming at the time was the on-rails light gun shooters. And why wouldn't they be when you have the potential of being the hero and carrying a big gun while you're at it? All the popular arcade makers had their own take. Atari had Area 51, Namco had Time Crisis, and Sega had Virtua Cop. But in 1996, Sega would add another horrific entry to the genre in the form of House of the Dead. Released worldwide in '97, the game was a hit, going on to spawn a couple ports and a sequel in a few years. But surprisingly, someone had the crazy idea to replace the light gun with a keyboard, and the second House of the Dead would morph into this unthought of spin-off, The Typing of the Dead. This game was released first to the arcades in 1999, then ported to the Dreamcast on January 23rd, 2001, getting mixed to favorable reception wherever it went, which kinda surprised me. I didn't think an alternative could beat good gunplay, but then it hit me. People always ask if the pen is mightier than the sword, when they should really be asking if the keyboard is mightier than the pistol. And according to the critics, apparently. So you can color me intrigued. I'm sure I'll have fun with this, but I don't think it'll be that fun. We'll see how this goes as we take a better look at the Typing of the Dead. We have to begin this excursion with a quick explanation on how to properly connect the controllers into the console. In order to play, you're going to have to connect the keyboard into player 1's control slot, while the regular controller can go into either slot 3 or 4. If that isn't followed, the Dreamcast will be a little touchy. Okay, Sega, I hear you. You don't have to get any louder. The attract screen catches us up with the events that happened in the previous game with the undead being in a house, and we fast forward to more than a year later to find them wreaking havoc in Italy, it seems. This game avoids the obvious error of it not taking place in a house. Either way, the intro is getting me hyped with all the quick cuts and action happening everywhere. Type or die? That's counterintuitive when the game's literally called The Typing of the Dead. Arnie? Is that you? Didn't know Sega had enough funds to put your soundbite into one of their games. For this segment, we'll focus on the arcade mode, as that is the real way to play it, and we begin the first chapter, a prelude, controlling James on his way to meet G from the last game, but this high-pitched devil stops us in our tracks, threatens us, and sends zombies after me, thus beginning the core gameplay. The object, of course, is to try and shoot, or type, the words each zombie has below them in order to make them dead again. It starts easy enough with 2-letter acronyms, but it'll quickly go to one full word when you find G wounded in the building. Oh my god, that Dreamcast setup. How do you even make that work? Nothing's even plugged in. Only the Dreamcast has the power to cure the zombie outbreak. Somebody please turn that into a short film. Besides the typing aspect, most of the gameplay stays the same, killing zombies before they get to attack you. At times, you'll face various different zombies that'll require you to type random words, or those small enemies with one letter that'll make you mash the keyboard. One of the new things of this game, for me anyway, are these small challenges. They weren't part of the original House of the Dead 2 game, so hey, they found more ways to integrate you having to type. I didn't have time to find a copy of House of the Dead 2 on Dreamcast to do a real proper comparison, but if I did, I think my opinion on this game would go to the negative side. I'll explain why in a moment. Every chapter will have a boss fight at the end to fend off, in this case being the devil who we can call Zeal and his big buddy Quarl. The formula changes slightly as we go from typing single words to small phrases, and even punctuation is thrown in on the odd occasion. And you gotta type them in fast before this slow ass attacks you. But when you have phrases like "On me to you" and "You chicken," it may be a cinch. But if you're like me, yeah. Make enough mistakes and you'll leave yourself wide open for a hit and a loss of one of your lives. Lose all your lives and it's potentially game over, unless you have a credit to continue. Once you get rid of a certain portion of the health bar, Quarl will go down and it leaves Zeal to deal with. He's mostly easy, though I may have taken a hit, and I'm sure the commenters are ready with their quick fingers. But once he's done with, he'll profess his love for a certain chemical element in the formal sense, and we meet up with the rest of the team. We decide to meet at another point in town, and then we get to see our results of the chapter, which I did very poorly in. Wow, there's only one way to label this effort. TSA. That sucked ass. The next chapter, Muddy, starts with a literal bang in the form of a car crash. I could have stopped it if I was quick enough to type the word prompt, but that's just one of the many problems I have with this game. I don't think this concept works all too well. Typing instead of shooting in a fast-paced on-rails game tends to slow the action down for more than one reason. For one thing, the way I type and how fast the game wants me to type is definitely not the same. I'm one of those guys who types better when looking at the keyboard and my fingers are freely flying. But these zombies are expecting me to type some other way that I'm not accustomed to. Yes, I am playing this game on normal, I check the options to make sure, but still I'm struggling to do good. Thank God the zombies have half a brain to wait patiently for me to fill them full of holes. You probably notice that every time you kill a zombie, you'll receive a ranking. This is based on your typing speed and accuracy, which will affect the points you get at the end of a chapter. Fair to say I'm not doing well in that department either, and I blame that on the perceived notion of using proper grammar. Spaces and punctuation can be killer at times, and halt your potential B rank and turn it into an E. I don't know if doing the proper grammar is helping or hurting me. I'm feeling like everything I'm doing isn't working. So much so that I think the zombies are coming out and infecting my arm. I also have issues not being able to get collectibles when they appear or saving civilians in time, which sucks. The items I'll let slide due to not playing the game enough to know where they appear, but I haven't been able to save a single civilian because this game is asking way too much of me. I only just rescued one because I got lucky. Cursing, they fucking know what I'm thinking. Seriously, this doesn't work. You didn't have the budget to reanimate that? Our next boss is this aqua beast known as the Hierophant. Its weak point is its heart, but the gimmick here is that the chest will open and close, so you'll have to wait to fully type the phrase. Which is a slight change, but it should be okay so long as the phrases aren't "Son of a bitch." I struggled for shit sure. I couldn't get past one phrase without getting hit. It took me dying completely for the game to show mercy and throw small phrases at me, and almost nixing the gimmick altogether. But it was pretty easy after that, even when it shifted phases trying to poke me with its pitchfork. But after that whole level enlisting my entire grievances, I only have one phrase that I want to say. What the fuck? So while on a boat, my teammates Amy and Harry fill me in on the mastermind of this game and the last, Mr. Goldman, the mysterious figure we've seen when chapters begin, and explains why Zeal was professing to the gold. man.
He's the head one of the most eminent financial group and an expert on the genome theory.
Genome. Genome? Are you kidding me? Has this voice actor never seen the word genome spelled out in his life? That's worse than not knowing how orangutan is spelled on air. Looking at you. Wink. While I'm at it, what's with this entire voice cast? It's so weird. The voice acting is so odd throughout, and I thought the first game's voice acting was decent, but this game makes the last Academy Award worthy. There are so many odd lines that just don't sound right. Just have a listen with me. Why are you unsure? I thought you took care of him earlier.
No! Help me!
No, help me! Selfish Italians.
Help me! Help me! Heard a voice over there.
Okay, that was the best exchange in the game. I guess it adds to its weird charm, but clearly someone was taking notes from Resident Evil in the worst way possible, when they should have paid attention to Metal Gear Solid and spent more time in the sound booth. Anyway, this chapter is proving difficult as there's more enemies to contend with, so you have to make quick choices on who to take out first. If you've accidentally targeted the wrong zombie, you can cancel out by hitting escape. The downside to that is it'll reset the zombie's word or phrase, and the escape key is way over here. Now you know it's an arcade game when you have a random important button away from the rest. Although I was able to stay long enough to see some questionable phrases pop up, I didn't get far enough to fight the boss as I gamed over through what I already described. Clearly I can't get through the game with a couple credits, and why should I? It's a console port. Free play is the better option, so we'll just resort to the passwords. Onward to the ever-reliable GameFAQs where they have a few codes, though they don't specify which does what, but let's just try one and see what happens. Okay, well that might have been my mistake. It does show them capitalized, so let's redo that. Hello? Do any of them work? What in the absolute hell? This was the weirdest part of my whole experience, finding that none of the passwords spread across the internet work at all, and many websites publish them as the Dreamcast passwords. But in reality, some guy on Reddit went through the .exe files on the disk to extract the true passwords, and thankfully one of them had the free play option. The rest we'll save for later. Now we could skip over the chapters we already played and mix and match, but I chose to replay the first 3 to figure out a better way of playing, and it didn't take long for me to see that grammar doesn't matter. Fuck the Nazis in all their forms. Spaces or capitalization won't affect your rank per zombie. As long as you type quickly and correctly, you'll get a good rank. Punctuation will matter when it pops up, but knowing this makes me less annoyed at the very least. Also, to my shock, I rescued a few more civilians while I was at it, and learned that some that you do rescue could lead to getting more good items or a branching path away from other danger. I guess we can chalk up the first round as a warm-up, or I really should have tried training mode first, but that would have only given me a timer. And now it's time to play How Well Does This Game Know the Modern Day? Unfair, this game is self-aware. Parent, they know about Cody. Crack, they know about Alex. E3, they know about you. Top 10 list, how do they know about Watch Mojo and the modern day internet? Shopping spree, they don't know about me. Spoilt child, that's not how you spell it, but they know about Jacob. Just goes to show I needed a rerun, and it went smoother in some places for sure. It hasn't made me a pro in any way, but I'm able to get through zombies more efficiently and rack up more A ranks and... Did I mention there was a perfect meter? When you spell out a word without errors and regardless of rank, it'll build up this meter. Fill it up completely and you'll receive another life. Oh, what I so desperately needed now that I'm on free play. Now we're back to where we were in Chapter 3, Darkness. Goldman calls Amy and tells them to meet at the Coliseum. We suspect a trap, so our next move is to spring it, of course. This obviously leads us to splitting up, where I go underground and forced to fight this Hydra-type beast known as the Tower. This is the most confusing boss fight in the game, where it gives you questions and you have to type the correct answers. Why? I mean, it's different, but I want to kill you quickly, not take my time to answer questions I don't know the answer to and get attacked. The fight gets interesting when the middle tower breaks off and we fight them in the sand. And I swear to God, I don't think they added the sound effect for their scream when they lose health, so it just sounds like they're screaming like a man. On to the 4th chapter of Despair, which for the most part isn't anything special. There's a few new enemy types, but the word format remains the same. Until you get to this cloud wannabe. The chapter is rather short compared to the rest so far, as we make it to the Colosseum in a heartbeat. And I want you to embrace this voice acting coming up, cause I already have.
People of the AMS, I am Goldman. This is a present.
I don't know how this could get any worse.
Look, at your right.
Okay, it got worse. By far the worst boss fight in the game is having to deal with the chainsaw-wielding strength. They took the best character type of the first game and forced us to do the ultimate sin of writing complete sentences that contain 4 goddamn lines. I can't stress how many times I got hit, and it really took away all the fierceness that this battle might have had with a light gun. I seriously didn't enjoy this, and I could care less if Harry is bitten. He lost my respect after Yenome.
James!
I don't know why that got me, but okay, you can have some cred back. Dawn arises at chapter 5 with the levels getting tougher and the phrases getting longer. Even a few of the zombies hide a special buddy in their chest when it bursts out. But this chapter can be best described as a mini boss rush. Your main enemies will consist of a returning Zeal and Quarrel, plus the Hyro fight right after them. I can only assume the devs were running out of ideas, so recycled some old foes for us that don't contribute anything new, but they had to fill up another chapter. Sega, level with me here. You ever heard of cutting content, or were you purposely wasting money and resources? When you reach Goldman's base of operations, we get a nice surprise with the return of Magician, the original final boss of the first game. He isn't too bad to deal with at the beginning, as you just can't make a mistake when typing phrases, otherwise you'll get hit. The second half, however, is dreadful, where you have to shoot 3 of his fireballs in succession in order to get a shot at him. Too much damn work for my blistering fingers. A piece of fluff, a piece of fuck more likely. The explosion is cool, but too bad it didn't destroy any of the windows, but we'll proceed to the 6th and final chapter, Original Sin. The phrases are the longest they can ever be, but it can throw you a bone at certain points. I don't know if we can call these zombies anymore, as they're laser-wielding, invisible, knowing, through-wall-going beings. The futuristic undead? This series jumped the shark on its second outing. After fighting Tower and only the question portion, cause those fuckers know how much I loved it the first time, we finally meet Goldman face to face and he explains himself like every villain does. Basically something about man creating a sin, disturbing the life cycle of nature, yada yada yada. But Goldman has created a being that will
Rule over mankind
and proclaim that this
is the final battle.
and we're properly introduced to the being known as the Emperor. Looking more like a Silver Surfer jester, but this game has fried my brain enough I'm not gonna question it. He's got his own thing like balls, his own sword, and balls again. Then it quickly becomes another boss rush sequence where he spawns chrome versions of past foes, and it definitely wasn't fun, but it gets weird with this questionnaire thingy coming in and killing him.
I am.
I thought adding that afterwards would have more effect. With Goldman cornered, he predicts this has only begun and a successor will take his place. Crazy to think they were planning a sequel if this was anything to go by. And it would seem Goldman commits suicide, but a bungee cord pulls him right back up to us? I don't know why I'm taking this seriously if the game itself isn't. Apparently, depending on how you answer the last questions, you can get one of the 3 ending scenarios, and that was the moderate ending. I couldn't give any more of a crap as we finally reached the credits. But the action isn't over yet, as you can type the names of those involved, and the more you nail, the more zombies you get to see dance. But that's how you play. I don't think I've been this frustrated and humored in a while. I certainly didn't think this game had it in it. It's pretty tough, at least for me. I can't speak for others, but I do know it takes this usually short experience and prolongs it to being twice as long. I can't say if it's for me yet. I'm leaning more towards no, but if you wanted to slowly and methodically kill zombies with your words, have I got a game for you. The original music was composed by Tetsuya Kawauchi, and for what it's worth, it keeps the theme of this game to a Z. Instead of a T because Z is for zombie? I'm so good at these puns. It makes the game feel and definitely sound like a live or die situation, keeping the atmosphere intense with a slight hint of frightening organs or operatic voices. The music can be somewhat scary when it wants to be, but mostly keeps tension high at all times when playing. Damn it, Brian. I was sleep crawling again. Sorry, I forgot to lock the door. I have no idea if Sega was all in on this concept, or if the developer Smilebit was pulling out all the stops to make this work, but there's still a crap ton of modes and other stuff to check out. I feel like I may die once this video is over. We already looked over the password entry, but I'll enter the rest the Redditor provided and see if they make any difference. One did unlock a mode I didn't have yet, and so did another. And so did another. If any of y'all have the power, please spread the correct passwords far and wide so others aren't misguided. The options do your typical thing like changing game settings and testing the sounds and music within the game. Rankings show all the top ranking players in every mode, and after all the shit I went through, I somehow came 7th overall. But I'm the only one who played this copy ever, though the computer quotes nearly made me think otherwise. I actually bought this game sealed for $30 back in 2018, and it even came with this Dreamcast sweepstakes card. You think if I mail this away, the Dreamcast 2 will come in the mail? Original mode made me think of Crazy Taxi for a sec, as it has the same menu setup. The game stays the same, with the only difference being you can carry items to use with your F1 through F4 keys. They can range from incredibly useful to worthless if you don't know what they do, but I'm not sticking around to find out as I've had enough of the core game for one day. Tutorial mode is where I perhaps should have started, as this is where you can learn the typing method the game expects you to know. Touch typing. Oh. Serious question, be honest. How many of you actually practice touch typing? Personally, I just remember learning it in elementary school through dance mat typing, and then completely forgetting about it. Those of a certain age group will know what I'm talking about. The material is extensive and cringeworthy, but it holds no value to me as I already went through the game without its help. But I probably could have used it in the other modes. Drill mode has several mini-games comprised as drills to help you improve certain aspects of your typing ability. You've got some for accuracy, reflexes, special keys, and the like. Some concepts are appealing and funny, so hey, this is something worthy of returning to. Boss mode wasn't what I thought it was, not a proper boss rush by itself, but a place you can practice up and fight any boss you choose, including the staff credits. The true final boss, as Tellero Boxer proved. Lastly, the unlocked mode via password versus CPU mode. An odd but brilliant concept where an NPC takes the role of your partner and you have to compete against the computer for points. They all have varying levels of typing experience, but I'll tell you what, I think Gary's glad to be out of this mess. At least for now, until someone brings in a second keyboard controller. Can you imagine having two players playing this game with keyboard controllers? I guess the Dreamcast could be looked at as the most overlooked and underrated PC of the 20th and 21st century. The game for its day was a moderate success through the eyes of critics. Some found it innovating and humorous, while others were unimpressed. Game Informer just found it weird. I couldn't find how well the Dreamcast port sold, but considering how uncommon it is to find out in the wild, and the current prices it's going for online, that alone speaks volumes and makes me glad for getting this game when I did. Like I said earlier, it first came out to the arcades, but it would also receive a port to Windows appropriately, and even a PS2 port only in Japan a few years later. Over the years, the game would expand into a series of its own, getting 2 sequels based off additional House of the Dead releases, and remade twice over for the Nintendo DS and iOS devices. So, what is my rate to play? Now, I've played my fair share of edutainment games. Some have been fun when played in the right mindset and perspective, while others just don't do either the education or entertainment, or even both correctly. In the case of DK Jr. Math, the pairing just doesn't mesh. You'd be right to think the House of the Dead and typing as a concept is just plain odd. And in execution, yeah, it still is. When I first saw the game, I figured it'd be something funny and humorous to check out, and in some respects it was, and in others it was a real pain in the brain. The thought of me of having to relearn a typing method I'm sure not many people use anymore is just ludicrous. The game demands speed and accuracy, and it isn't going to get it unless you play the game on one of the easier difficulties. I also think this game format highlights more of the game's shortcomings and turns it into gold. The dialogue and its delivery is so bad it's good, and the fact that everything about it besides the gameplay is the same just goes to show Naomi could pull off the arcade look for the home. However, the boss fights suffer the most, demanding way too much of a certain player. Chalk it up to bad playing or inexperience if you must, but I find it to be an oddity of its time. Plenty to do with varying degrees of substance depending on the player's preference. If you want to try it out, go for it. But I'd still recommend a session of dance mat typing before attempting this shit. To conclude, I give this game a play rate of... play. But that's only my opinion. If you have your own thoughts, leave a comment. If you like what you see, leave a like. If you think others would enjoy this, share it around the web. And if you want to see more, subscribe. Anyway, this has been BrianTheBlue Game Reviews, The Typing of the Dead, for the Dreamcast. Brian here, want to quickly say thanks for watching this game review, as this and other content wouldn't be possible without you. I appreciate anyone and everyone who watches my videos from all across the world, but it alarms me that over 80% of viewers aren't subscribed to the channel. So I'd like to reiterate and ask you to subscribe as well as ringing the bell to stay notified. That way you can stay up to date with future content that'll appear on the Jacobians channel. Presently I put out new quick views and current calamities every month, and my brother Alex has a brand new show all about wrestling games called WrestleBound. You might want to stick around as we're only getting started. You can also find me on a couple of other channels. I run the Starfighters Arcade channel, where we take a look at the history of our machines on the floor as well as show you our new arrivals, and on Millennial X, where me, arcade buddies, and family get into shenanigans playing, hunting, and reviewing games. If you want to explore more content, these would be the first places to go. That's all the time I got, but be sure to click the icon now if you want to watch the previous or upcoming episodes of Game Reviews.